أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقدار العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Brothers and sisters in the religion of Islam, fathers, mothers, sons, relatives, and the entire Muslim Ummah. Welcome to my channel. For those of you who are coming here for the first time, please, you should consider to subscribe to this channel. Today, we would like to discuss a very important subject in the religion of Islam. The subject of understanding the path of salvation in Islam. How do you understand the path of salvation in Islam? There is a famous ahadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, which says, kad if takarra farak ko istafraka yahudiyun ihda wa sab'una firqatan kulluhum fin nar wa kad iftaraka faraka yes nasraniyun isna wa sab'una firqatan kulluhum fin nar wa sa istafraka azal umma salasa wa sab'una firqatan kulluhum fin nar illa ma ana alayhi wa ashabi ila yawm al-qiyamah. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam has said, the Jewish nation, that is the Ummah of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, was divided into 71 sects, and all of them are going to the hellfire. The Christendom, that is the people of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, they were also divided into 72 sects, and all of them are going to the hellfire. The third is his ummah, the ummah of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He is now telling us that in the future, after he is gone, this ummah is going to be divided into 73 sects, and all is going to the hellfire, except the one he establishes and his companions are. Which one is that? One that the Prophet established with his companions. And how do you identify it today? And how do you become a member of that one today? This is the introduction to today's lecture. Please pay attention on what we will discuss, and you should not rely totally on my discussion. You should also go into research. We are all seekers of knowledge, and we are only sharing what we discover, and so that the Ummah will benefit. We are only here to create an eye-opening. We are not here to finalize knowledge. Nobody is the epitome of knowledge. Allah says in the Holy Quran, commanding the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Kul, say Ya Rasulullah, tell them, innamal ilmu indallah, that knowledge comes from Allah. This verse reveals the greatest form of tawadu in Islam. Every form of knowledge comes from Allah. This is where the Western education is deluded, because they don't believe that knowledge comes from Allah. They believe that knowledge comes from their own effort. That is an act of kufr. You must declare, because the Quran has declared, and the Quran has commanded the Prophet to declare that knowledge comes from Allah. Innamal ilmu min indillah wa innama ana nazirun mubin. And you should also declare, Ya Rasulullah, alayka salatu wasalam, that you are a manifest warner, one who is sent by Allah, who is the source of knowledge, to come and warn mankind over the calamities that will befall if they refuse to follow the teachings of Allah. So there is no way you can be a warner and you don't have knowledge. It's not even possible. How do you know the consequence that you are warning someone not to follow? And an animal attested the fact that the Prophet ﷺ was indeed a warner from Allah, a Nazir. When the day he was born, that animal, a beast, declared in a Jewish garden that the warner has been born. And this was how the Jewish world now came to realize that, oh, the one who will be sent by Allah has been born into the family of Arabia. And this was where the envy began. So today's lecture, if you look at this ummah of religious, the religious ummah on earth are three: that of the Jew, that of the Christians, and that of Islam, the Muslims. The Jews, the Prophet said they are divided into 71. They are all going to the hellfire. This is now the fate of the religious world today. They are all going to the hellfire. The Christians are divided into 72. So if you add to that 71, that will give you 143 different sects of the religious world. They are all going to the hellfire. The Muslim Ummah is 73, divided into 73 sects. If you add 73 to this 143, it will give you 143 plus 70 here is going to be 6. 4 plus 7, 1. 216. 216 different sects of religious groups. Only one is going to paradise. All the remaining, they are going to the hellfire. Is this not something that you should try to understand? You just sit down where you are, you call yourself a Muslim, you don't know the path of Allah and His Messenger and His companions. You were just opportune to be born into a Muslim family without understanding the path of salvation. How would you now understand this part of salvation? The Sirat al-Mustaqim we are talking about here. Sirat al-Lazina an'amta alayhim, the path of those Allah has bestowed His favor upon them. The most favored servant of Allah is Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and those that are with him. And the Quran testifies to that. In the famous verse, Surah Al-Fathu, Ayatul Rasul, that is Muhammadu Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Wallazina ma'ahu, those that are with him, that is the Ashab. Ashiddahu ala al-kuffar, ruhamahu baynahum. They are most magnificent people, the people that are overpowering to the kuffars, the conquerors of kuffar. Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih, the 7th Ottoman Sultan and the 6th Caliph of Islam, in my opinion. Allah knows best. He was born immediately his father finished reciting this surah of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatih. And then the news came to his father that, oh Sultan Murad As-Sani, your wife just gave birth to a boy, a baby boy. He said, okay, name him Muhammad, so that he will become Al-Fatihi, because I just finished reciting Surah Al-Fatih. He named his son after a surah of the Holy Quran, Muhammad Al-Fatih. And that surah followed this boy. He was the one that conquered Constantinople, prophesied by Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So he brought the prophecy of Nabi Muhammad into being. And to me, that is the greatest evidence to legitimize his caliphate in Islam. He is the 6th caliph in Islam. And if you have any proof to disregard with that, then you should also bring your evidence from the Quran and from the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet then says, now we have 216 communities in the religious world. All of them are going to the hellfire except one. That is the one of the Prophet and his companions. How do you identify this one? There is a famous incident in the lifetime of the Prophet والسلام, during the battle of Ahzab, the battle of Hindik, Ghazwatul Hindik, not Hindi, Ghazwatul Hindik, the battle of the trench, when the kuffars surrounded Medina with 11,000 soldiers, and the Muslim Ummah was just 3,000 in Medina as at that time. Then Salman al-Faris now brought an idea. Say, Ya Rasulullah, allow me to bring an idea we used to use as Persians in Jahiliyyah whenever we are confronted by an army we cannot face. What do we do? The Prophet said, yes, what is it? Come up with your idea. This is the Prophet listening to idea from a common man, from his companion. Whatever you are in this life, you should listen to the people around you. May Allah guide us. Salman al-Faris now told the Prophet, whenever they are confronted by an army beyond their march, they usually dig a trench surrounding themselves so that this army will not be able to approach them. Immediately the Prophet gave an order for a trench to be dug around Medina so that the fortress of the Medina was going to be protected. And once that trench is dug, the Sahabas should be at alert. Whenever this army approach, you should fire them. You cannot confront them. You just fire them with bows and arrows. So the process now began for this trench to be dug. From there, we now saw three different groups that made up the Ummah of Nabi Muhammad and his companions, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The Al-Ansar people, that is Al-Ansar, the people of Medina that accepted Islam, they formed their own group. They were digging their own trench, their own portion of the trench. The Al-Muhajir, that is the Quraysh that came together with the Prophet, they formed their trench, their own group, to be digging the portion of the trench that was attached to them. And then there was this conflict concerning who should Salman join. Salman al-Faris, there was this disagreement among the Sahabas, the Muhajirins and the Ansar. The Muhajirins said, since Salman is not from Medina, is also a Muhajir, he should join them, their group, because of because of this idea that he brought. The Ansar says no. He accepted Islam in Medina. That makes him Ahlul Medina. He should be part of the Ansar. And so when the Prophet had this argument among his Sahabas, the Prophet now declared, Salmanu minna ahlal bayt. That is, Salman is one of us, we the people of the house. This is the third category. The third category of this ummah of the Prophet and his companions. And this is the ummah that is going to paradise. The Ahl al-Bayt comprise the Prophet, his families, and his descendants. Up till day, we have the Ahl al-Bayt with us here on earth. We have them all over the world. There is no any country today that the family of Nabi Muhammad has not stepped into and established. There is no any other country today. I cannot, to the best of my knowledge, there is no country today on earth that the Ahl al-Bayt has not yet stepped into. I've not seen, I don't know of that. If there is, I don't know. The Sahabas, the Muhajirin and the Ansar, the Prophet said, none of them will live beyond 100 years after Hijrah. So no matter what, they will finish. So that portion of this ummah that the Prophet was and his companions, remember even the Ahl al-Bayt are also the Sahabas, are also part of the Sahabas. Sayyidina Ali was also a Sahabi and he's a Ahl al-Bayt. Nana Fatima was a female Sahaba and she's also Ahl al-Bayt. Hassan al-Hussein, they are also companions and at the same time Ahl al-Bayt. We have Alu Jafar, Alu Ali, Alu Akil, Alu Abbas. They are also part of the Ahl al-Bayt, but they are not the core members of the Ahl al-Bayt. So this Ahl al-Bayt, it is that branch of the Prophet and his companions that will reach today. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, alayhi salam, the fifth Imam of the Ahl al-Bayt. I don't call them the Imam of the Shiites. No. I call them the Imam of Ahl Muhammad, Imam of Ahl al-Bayt, Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And with that name, the Sunni world can now embrace them. The Sunni world has already embraced them. There is no any Sunni scholar that would disagree with the Ahl al-Bayt. No. No any Sunni scholar will do that, except the Munafiq. You cannot disagree with the Ahl al-Bayt except if you are a Munafiq. So that Sayyidina Muhammad al-Baqir, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir declared when he went to the city of Madayan, and that is the city of Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam. The people of that city prevented him from entering that city. They didn't want his presence. And so he went to the outskirts of the city and he began to recite the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Hud, the surah that was speaking of prophets. And so there was a verse in that surah which says, Bakiyatullah khairun lakum in kuntum mu'minin. That is what Allah has left behind for you, for this ummah, is what is best for you, if at all you are a believer. After he recited that verse of the Quran, he now said, Wallahi, Wallah, Wallahi, Tallahi, Billahi, Lazi, La ilaha illa huwa, Nahanu Bakiyatullah alaykum. We are what Allah has preserved for you, this ummah of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. By that declaration, it is now manifest that the family of the Prophet is the preservation of Allah for the ummah. It is the family that Allah has preserved for this ummah. And so whatever it is that we want, whatever guidance that we want, the Prophet said, Al-Hassan was Wal-Hussein, Sayyidani Ahlu Jannah. Sayyidina Hassan and Hussein, these are the two chiefs or leaders or imams of the people of paradise. Now I want to ask you a question. How are you going to paradise without being under the leader of the people of paradise? Can you do that? Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein, it didn't just stop there. Their progeny inherit these sayyids from them. Those who descend from them, the Ahl al-Bayt, these are the sayyids of Ahlul Jannah, the leaders of the people of paradise. So wherever you are on earth, whatever sect it is that you are, you must be from the Jama'ah of the Ahl al-Bayt. If you don't fall under the category of the family of the Prophet, then you have no Imam. And there's also this famous ahadith of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, which the Prophet says, Man mata, whoever dies among you, walam ya'rifu imamuhu, and he does not understand his Imam, fakad mata mitatul jahiliyyah, then such a person has died the death of a jahil, an equivalent death of a jahil. So what's the point of living your life a Muslim, dying a Muslim, and then on the day of judgment you now realize that you died the death of a jahiliyyah? If you die as a jahiliyyah, you will be resurrected as a jahiliyyah because you don't understand your Imam. Imamat in Islam is fard, is fard. Khilafat, Imamat in Islam is fard. Understanding imamat in Islam is wajib li kulli Muslim. Every Muslim need to understand the imamat in Islam. And it's not necessarily a political position. Somebody who has political power or authority on the land. No. This is Islam. He can also fall into that category, but he can also fall into a category of those who don't have political power in Islam. This is where now the subject of the Ahl al-Bayt, there is no way you can dissect the history of this ummah without understanding the Ahl al-Bayt. If you just follow scholars who write books upon books, this ummah is an ummah of knowledge. And the Prophet has shown us where to acquire that knowledge from. No matter what you acquire now, it doesn't give you independence of the source. Everybody knows the Prophet declared, even the Sahabas understood that when it comes to knowledge, the first and the best when it comes to knowledge is the Ahlul Bayt. Anna Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyu Babuha. That's what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam. I am the city of knowledge. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam declared. But Ali, my son-in-law, is the gateway to this knowledge. That is, it doesn't stop in just Ali. It follows down through the line of Ahlul Bayt till the day of judgment, till the time of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. And Imam Mahdi will now pass this succession to Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And this is now the fulfillment of the prophetic word which says, Ulama ummati ka anbiya'i banu Israel. Because if you now start counting from Ali, Sayyidina Ali, karramallahu ta'ala waja'u, and his two sons and their progeny down to the time of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, you will see equivalent numbers of prophets. The same way that we have 124,000 prophets according to the ijma of the ulama of Islam. Every scholar in Islam accepts this fact. The four Sunni schools of thought accept that prophets of Allah were 124,000. And then the Rasuls is 313. The ones that are mentioned in the Quran is 25. The Ulul Azmi is 5. And from this Ulul Azmi, Allah now single outed Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam as the leader of all prophets. So also when it comes to saints, when it comes to the scholars in Islam, the divinely appointed scholars, I'm not talking about scholars who became scholars by virtue of research and other things. No, I'm talking about scholars. I'm talking about scholars who are divinely appointed scholars, who were naturally born scholars. They will be equal to the number of prophets, and that is 124,000. Amongst them, 313 will also be unique, sent to different nations in this ummah. Among the 313, 25 is going to be well known worldwide. I will also, in my subsequent lectures, by the grace of Allah, I will also dissect the 25 scholars that are known throughout the Muslim Ummah without any doubt. By the grace of God, in my subsequent lectures, I will also have to deliver another lecture to clarify that issue. Because 25 prophets were mentioned in the Holy Quran. So also 25 scholars are also, if you want to understand the history of this Muslim Ummah from without till now, there is no way you can do it without mentioning these 25 scholars. I will also bring another, inshallah, I will release another lecture on that subject by the grace of Allah. Out of these 25 scholars, we now have 5 that are also unique, that are the inheritors of the Ulul Azm, who also discuss these 5. And among these 5, Allah now chooses Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam to be the leader of all saints of all time. Alayhi salam. May Allah give us the honor of becoming his companions here in our own region in Africa. Bijay Sayyidina Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. The same way that Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq was honored of becoming Sahibul Rasul. Ya Rabbi, make us among the Sahibul Mahdi alayhi salam. By the grace of God, if you want to continue, we will stop here for today. By the grace of God, it's time for Asr prayer. After my Asr prayer, I will come back to continue with this lecture by the grace of Allah, so that we will understand the path of salvation in Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.